Greetings, everyone. This is John Kountouris, and you are listening to a new edition of my show, Greek News on Demand. Greek News on Demand is based off of my news website, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Please go there for the best news on Greece, period. It's mostly in Greek, but we do have an exclusive English section where you can basically check out all that we publish in English about Greece and about many other pertinent topics that affect us Americans here in America. We have a lot to talk about with regards to Greece, but there's a lot more to talk about right now with regards to the U.S. elections, because the next U.S. president is going to have to play a major role on the world stage. And this president is going to have to handle a lot more than any other president has ever handled. So my question is, what is this new president going to do for Greece? That's really what my big question is here. So in this show, I'll get into that a little bit. What is the new next president going to do for Greece? But there's also a lot of information coming down the pike with regards to Obama and him activating this federal emergency communications garbage, which basically is requiring all federal broadcasters to broadcast this FEMA message and things of that sort. So we're going to get into some of that too, as well as other very pertinent news items. I am a Greek journalist. I'm an American citizen. I was born here. But I appear on Greek TV and radio, both here in the United States and in Greece. In the case of the United States, I appear on the biggest Greek television channel and show in all of America, and of course North America. It's called Greek Voice. They have an actual name of the channel from Florida. It's Channel 48 in regular TV over there, but they're able, though, to broadcast their shows in general worldwide, the Greek communities worldwide. So they're called Channel 48 there in Florida. So the one particular show that I appear on there is Greek Voice, which is the biggest TV show, Greek TV show in all of North America. So that's pretty much where I started with Greek media. Right now, too, I'm appearing on Greek radio out of New York, in the biggest Greek radio station in all of North America. It's called Halas FM. Halas FM. So what they are is basically just this huge radio station out of New York, and they're broadcast also to Greek communities worldwide. And, of course, they are very well recognized by the Greek mainstream news media in Greece, just as the Channel 48 out of Florida is. Now, I have an announcement to make, and I hope that you guys will be able to tune in to this next Greek radio broadcast that I'm going to be on. It's going to be this upcoming Monday at 9 a.m. my time. That is Los Angeles time. New York time, Eastern Standard Time, that's going to be 12 p.m. So again, this Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be appearing on the biggest Greek radio network in all of North America, which is broadcast to Greek communities worldwide. It's called Halas FM. You spell that Hellas FM, Halas FM. If you go to their website, you can find out more about them. That's www.halasfm.us. halasfm.us. That is one word, HELLASFM.us. Now, the topic of this show that I'm going to be on, basically, has to do with Donald Trump's official representative to all of the Greek world, to Greece and to Greek communities worldwide. His name is Christos Malfatsos. I will be interviewing him with a colleague of mine from Greece. So this is going to be a very exclusive interview. So I would like all of you guys to tune in because, number one, it's me. And hopefully I will be able to give a shout out for all of you guys here on this wonderful online radio network. It's also in English, so a lot of it will be in Greek, of course, because we have to translate all of this for the Greek world. I will be doing all the translating myself, but I will be asking him a question too towards the end of the broadcast. I would like for you guys to tune in, if you can, this Monday for this exclusive interview. Again, we will be interviewing a gentleman by the name of Christos Malfatsos, who is Donald Trump's official representative to Greece and to Greek communities worldwide. So we're going to ask him a bunch of tough questions about basically what Donald Trump has in mind for Greece. Hopefully he has something in mind for Greece. That would be great because every U.S. government has totally trashed Greece for many, many decades, at least the past 40 years. And I talk about this in my two books, which are both available on Amazon's Kindle, actually, because right now they're only in electronic form. And hopefully soon they will be in paperback form. So the first one is called Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization by John Kountouris. Again, that's Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization by John Kountouris. And I've talked about my books before, but I'd like to talk about them again because they both encapsulate my whole goal and mission basically for Greece and for the Greek people, which is nothing more than an attempt to revive the Greek culture, to bring awareness of the Greek culture to the Western world, because unfortunately there is a steady agenda by the Western world to do away with the Greek people, their culture, their language, and everything else. And basically this is my life's work encapsulated basically in two books, and I could write so many more books basically on Greece right now. But so far, these two really hammer home the message. So in the first book, I basically teach you the best methods to learn the Greek language, and particularly the ancient language. And I teach you basically all the mysteries of the Greek language, of the Greek people, their culture, their history. It's all these wonderful, juicy little details within about 200 pages. I get into basically all the ancient prophecies of the ancient Greeks about the coming of Christ into the world. Yes, you heard that correctly, because it was the ancient Greeks that prophesied much more accurately and often about the coming of Christ into the world than did the Hebrew prophets. That is something that I'm desperately trying to pass on to all the theological seminaries here in America, as well as all the evangelical churches, because, everyone's caught up in the whole the Jews are God's chosen people trip. And that has led to some very, very dangerous consequences for this country and for the rest of the world. And in my book I describe how it's not the Jews who are God's chosen people, it's the Greeks. Because all you got to do, in the Western world at least, is look at everything you have, and the only thing you need to know is that all came from the Greeks. End of story. Whether it's science, language, math, etc., etc., etc. End of story. So, that book is very important, and I go over this age-long conspiracy against the Greek people from ancient times all the way up into today. The second book, Hellenic Crisis by John Kountouris, also available on Amazon, goes over the modern economic crisis in Greece, which has been going on for 6 years. But I'm first forced to cover the past 40-plus years of Greek modern history in order for you to fully understand what's going on in Greece today. And what's going on is nothing more than Henry Kissinger's New World Order policy for Greece. Because back in 2012, I met for the first time a relative of marriage of mine. His name is Konstantin Savalas. Konstantin Savalas is the brother of the late great Greek-American actor Telly Savalas. Now, we all remember Telly Savalas from Kojak and from all his great movies, like The Dirty Dozen, etc. Telly Savalas was a great American. He was also a great Greek, and he loved the Greek people, and he spent a lot of his fortune giving back to Greece. So, his brother, Konstantin, who's still alive, he's about 95, and who's in excellent health. His brother told me back in January 2012 that he worked for the State Department in the 60s and 70s, the U.S. State Department. And he was assigned to Greece back in the 70s, and in 1974, the great crisis in Cyprus, the island of Cyprus, breaks out. And the Turks invade the northern part of Cyprus, the best part of Cyprus, with all the natural resources. And they continue to illegally occupy Cyprus to this day. And no one's done a damn thing about it. Now, the UN has come out with some rulings, and there's been some U.S. politicians who have spoken about this issue. But no one's done anything about it. And it's exactly the same situation that's going on in Palestine, where you have illegal invaders, the Jews, who have invaded an area that does not belong to them, which is, and their invasion, of course, is predicated on the fact that God gave them that land, which is utter BS. No, God did not give them that land, because if you want to take that from a biblical standpoint, these people, the Jews of today, are not the descendants of the biblical Israelites. They are the Khazars, which is another issue. But it's the Turks who use the same insanely retarded rationale to occupy Cyprus, because the Turks of today still have this Ottoman Empire mentality. I mean, it was Erdogan from Turkey, the modern leader of Turkey of today, who just said in a speech that all the Greek islands in the Aegean belong to Turkey, invoking basically a supposed error that the government of Kemal Ataturk made back during the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923, whereupon most of the islands in the Aegean were given to the Greeks. So he said that the then Turkish government made a mistake, and that really all those islands belong to the Turks. Of course, the Turks also think that Cyprus belongs to them. So, Mr. Konstantin Savalas, the brother of Telly Savalas, was a representative of the U.S. State Department in Greece during the Cypriot crisis, which broke out in July of 1974. And when I spoke to him for the first time, he told me that all the conspiracy theorists basically are 100% right, and that this was all orchestrated by Henry Kissinger and the U.S. government. Of course, the Great Britain, too, played a huge role in this, too. And as well as other allies of the United States. But up until now, there's been a lot of people that have denied Henry Kissinger's role in the Cypriot crisis, which is a major, monumental issue for the Greek people and for the Cypriot Greek people. The Cypriots are Greek too. It's just they're on an island called Cyprus, an ancient Greek island, and today they happen to just have their own state. Now, the reason why Greece and Cyprus are not united is because the New World Order does not want them to be united. This is a major, monumental issue that has really left many scars with the Greek people and with the Cypriot people. Because they've tried over the years to unite, and the powers that be have stopped them. They don't want them to unite. Because they don't want, basically, two Greek nations becoming a powerful force in that corner of the world. Because they're a force for good. They're a Christian Orthodox force. And this reminds the New World Order sort of the great Christian Byzantine Empire that once ruled the world for 1100 years and kept the forces of darkness in check, kept world Jewry in check, kept the Muslims in check. They're a very powerful empire, the greatest empire that ever lived on the face of the earth. So it was the sinister forces of the New World Order that got rid of them. And yes, the New World Order has been around for hundreds of years. It was first formed with the Venetian black nobility from Venice. Back in the 1400s, they aided the Ottoman Empire to overthrow the great city of Constantinople, which led to a general wider overthrowing of all of the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire. And then we Greeks went into slavery to the Ottoman Turks for about 400 years. 400 years. And we've been trying to get back on our feet ever since as a nation. But the powers that be today don't want that. Great Britain doesn't want it. And that's why Great Britain, from the beginning, basically did not allow us to become a free, independent nation. They enslaved us right when we were delivered from the Turks. So we passed from the control of one despot to another. And the way that they were able to control us is through lending. They lent us and lent us and lent us tons of money. And yes, this is all done by the Bank of England. And yes, the Bank of England was controlled by the Rothschilds. And yes, the Rothschilds played a huge role in this. And yes, the Rothschilds set up a central bank in Greece in 1841 called the National Bank of Greece. Yes, they set this bank up about 70 years before the Federal Reserve Bank was set up in the United States. Most people don't know that about Greece. Greece has been under the control of the Rothschilds a lot longer than the United States has. Of course, during the 1800s, that's when the Rothschilds were trying to get at everyone. They were working together with other powerful Jewish families in Great Britain, in cooperation with the King of England, with the aristocracy, in order to basically enslave the whole world. Now, the King, the Rothschilds, all these families I'm talking about, these were remnants of the black Venetian nobility, which were all Khazar Jews, and they were very powerful in banking and in trade. And of course, the Venetian Empire dissolved back in 1799, I believe is the exact year. 1799, they ceased to be sort of an empire altogether. So, there's an actual article, too, that I like to refer to. It was written by UCR, which is basically, yes, I believe that's UCR, which is Lyndon LaRouche's press service. They wrote an article back in 1986 about this very exact issue. Anyway, in this article, which was published in 1986, the writer talked about how there was a huge gala going on in Venice, in ancient Venice, during the summer of that year, where you had all these elite attend this huge party that was celebrating the reconstruction of this old Venetian palace. And there you had Henry Kissinger, there you had the Rothschilds, there you had all these elite. And Henry Kissinger explicitly stated how it was basically time to revive the Venetian Empire. Gee, isn't that something? The Venetian Empire. That just says it all, because it was at that time that Henry Kissinger admitted that basically all the elite today come from Venice. So when Venice was dissolved, basically all these elite, they just spread. They spread around the whole world. A lot of them went to other capitals, other major centers of the world at this time. But basically, they were the Illuminati. They were the creators. And of course, they were tied in with major other centers of power around the world. Bavaria, Germany, London, England, etc., etc. So Henry Kissinger admitted this at that time. And if you look at the Venetians, you're going to see what power and influence they had in the world from the 1100s on into the 1800s. They were a major force to be reckoned with. So basically, Henry Kissinger, in his 1952 Harvard thesis, wrote that basically he learned all of his politics, all of his foreign policy from Venice. Isn't that something? And of course, the Venetians were very well known for their political diplomacy, for their sneakiness and craftiness that they developed and wove into political diplomacy. They're the ones who created espionage, counter-espionage. They're the ones that created all this. So we basically, we take our cues from Venice today with regards to our intelligence services and our diplomatic services around the world. That is what our government is based on. We are based on an Illuminati form of government anyway, which is nothing more than a purely Jewish Talmudic form of government. Don't ask me. You can talk to very prominent Jewish professors from Georgetown University on this, when they came out with this huge study in 1987 that talked about how the Jewish Shatar system basically became the basis for all of the Western world. The Jewish Shatar system. The Shatar system was nothing more than the Jewish form of leases. And this eventually, of course, led to commercial law, and then this type of commercial law began to infiltrate all of regular law. That's why today everything works as a business. Our government works as a business, as a corporation. Now, it was the Normans who had basically in England, who had basically major dealings with the Jews back in the 1060s and on. That's when they allowed the Jews to really gain a foothold in England and to be able to develop their commercial form of law there. Of course, the Britons had enough of them in 1290 and kicked them all out for a period of 300 years. And then it was Oliver Cromwell of Orange in conjunction with King Henry VIII that bring them all back. And at this point, you now have the Jews taking over the Bank of England. And then in the 1700s, the Rothschilds come onto the scene, and of course the rest is history. So, basically, going back to my Constantine Savalas story, once this crisis in Cyprus breaks out, major pandemonium is taking place in Greece and Cyprus, and of course around the world. So, Constantine is now called to go give answers to the Greek press, but before he goes, he gets a phone call out of the blue from none other than Henry Kissinger in his office. And Henry Kissinger tells him, Constantine, don't tell the Greeks a damn thing about what we're doing to them right now. Keep it basically on the down low, play dumb, is basically what Henry Kissinger told him. I mean, you can't find a better source of information than this on the subject. So again, for years, people have denied Henry Kissinger's role in the Greek Cypriot crisis, but it was Constantine Savalas himself who told me that Henry Kissinger was involved, because he worked for the State Department at this time in Greece, and Henry Kissinger personally told him that the United States was behind this Turkish invasion in Cyprus. End of story. So this is a major, major issue that needs to be addressed, needs to be dealt with. The United States government needs to basically cut the BS and basically tell the Turks to get the hell out of Cyprus, because this is an illegal occupation. And this is what's preventing Greece and Cyprus from uniting, of course, and from becoming a powerful nation together, which needs to happen. Now, the fact that the United States and Great Britain and other great powers have not allowed this to happen since the founding of the modern Greek state in 1821 is in itself a conspiracy against the Greek people. There's no other way to explain this, because during this whole process, the United States, Great Britain, and the great powers have prevented these two nations from uniting. End of story. They've also allowed great massacres to take place against these people. For example, the Greek massacres, which we just commemorated this month of September. Now, of course, this coincides with the Armenian massacres. I'm talking about the massacres that the Turks did to the Greeks. So, of course, this coincides with the Armenian massacres because we and the Armenians were together for many, many years, dealing, unfortunately, with our Turkish imam overlords. So basically, this is a major, major message. This is what Donald Trump needs to address with regards to Greece. I addressed this issue with the Greek ambassador to Greece back in December of 2008 during the night of the presidential elections when Obama was running against McCain. And, of course, the U.S. ambassador admitted to all this. He wouldn't disagree. I'm talking about Mr. Daniel Speckhard. But, of course, he told me, well, what can we do? This is all politics. Now, I found out later, and I've repeated this before, but it's worth repeating again because it's so shocking. I found out later on, over the years, that Daniel Speckhard himself was a part of a conspiracy to destroy the Greek people, to put them under the slavery of the Troika. It was him, according to WikiLeaks, that formed tight relationship with the then Greek government to basically enslave Greece and put them under the control of the Troika. And the WikiLeaks memos talk about all this. We're talking about WikiLeaks leaks dating back to, I believe this is spring of 2011. 2011. Daniel Speckhard's name has been found on memos where in 2008 he was manipulating the then Greek government. And of course, he was part of a concerted effort to overthrow the then Greek Prime Minister Kostas Karamanlis to replace him with George Papandreou, who is this utterly disgusting socialist figure in Greece. His family has been in politics for many, many years. The Papandreou's family is a very powerful New World Order family. So, during this time, he, in cooperation with the United States government and with Israel, planned to get rid of Kostas Karamanlis because he was trying to make Greece great again. Unfortunately. And, well, not unfortunately, it was unfortunate, though, that they went and overthrew him. So, we have the WikiLeaks documents. I have documents from Greek intelligence that talk about all this. And, of course, the United States government was behind all of this. Now, before I forget, I'd like to remind you also in my last broadcast when I talked about, Hollywood making this utterly disgusting Jason Bourne movie where, he shoots scenes in Greece. There's scenes that are apparently shot in Greece, but they claim that they weren't. It was actually in Spain and in France because the Greek government wouldn't give them the license to shoot in Greece. Anyway, in a nutshell, just to recap on that, in the movie, you basically see Jason Bourne and his partner being chased by the CIA in the streets of Athens, and the Greek political party Golden Dawn is involved in this, and all this weird, strange propaganda. So anyway, if you want, you could check it out. I know you could probably easily see Jason Bourne on some type of free movie site right now if you just Googled the movie. Besides all that, basically, these are going to be the tough questions we're going to be asking Donald Trump's representative to Greece. And I hope that basically has an answer. Now, don't think that I have any hope in Donald Trump, because I don't. 100% I don't. Now, I may get into a little bit about him in this broadcast, but what I need to do first is get into a very, very critical issue concerning basically something that Obama has just done, which is utterly disgusting, tyrannical, and it has to do with the emergency alert system of the Federal Communications Commission. Basically, the other day, I was told by a colleague of mine, his name is Angelos Angelatos. He's the guy, by the way, that runs that Greek Channel 48 out of Florida, that he got a notice from the federal government that today, September the 28th, 2016, Obama and FEMA would be sending out this huge message on airwaves and on radio waves nationwide saying, this is a test of the Obama administration, blah, 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 in the case of a national emergency, blah, blah, blah. Now, of course, that took place earlier today. It was, how can I describe this? Utterly freaky, utterly reminiscent of George Orwell's 1984. This is utterly disgusting, tyrannical, unconstitutional, underhanded, and it's just indicative of the fact that Obama wants to become a dictator. Now, there's all these rumors for years that he's going to be one, and he's going to remain in power after January 2007, meaning the election, something's going to happen with the elections. In other words, either Trump is going to get assassinated, quote unquote, or Hillary's going to die, quote unquote, or we're going to have another type of 9/11, quote unquote, where we see many, many people get killed. And of course, this will be the excuse for Obama to then basically call in martial law. And the way he's going to do it is invoke the FEMA provisional government, which basically no other president has done. And when he does that, what happens? He literally becomes a dictator. After that, you can forget about Congress, you can forget about the Supreme Court, you can forget about the balance of powers. There are no balance of powers in this country anyway, because Obama and other presidents like Bush have already acted like complete dictators. But if this happens, Obama really does become a dictator. He becomes actually a king. No kidding, no joke. So basically, this is what he did today. He invoked this emergency alert system. And this alone is just utterly, just pure stupidity. Anyway, let me read you straight from the FCC's website how this works. The Emergency Alert System, EAS, is a national public warning system that requires broadcasters, cable television systems, wireless cable systems, satellite digital audio radio service, SDARs, in other words, providers, and direct broadcast satellite, DBS, providers, to provide the communications capability to the President to address the American people, the American public, during a national emergency. The system also may be used by state and local authorities to deliver important emergency information, such as Amber Alerts and weather information targeted to specific areas. Continuing, the FCC, in conjunction with FEMA and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's National Weather Service, NWS, implements the EAS at the federal level. The President has sole responsibility for determining when the EAS will be activated at the national level and has delegated his authority to the Director of FEMA. FEMA is responsible for implementation of the national level activation of the EAS, tests and exercises. The NWS develops emergency weather information to alert the public about imminent dangerous weather conditions, and so on and so forth. The FCC's role includes prescribing rules that establish technical standards for the EAS, procedures for EAS participants to follow in the event the EAS is activated, and EAS testing books, EAS testing protocols. Additionally, the FCC ensures that the EAS state and local plans developed by industry conform to FCC EAS rules and regulations. So, this is how it works, but it's completely illegal and unconstitutional. The president has no right to basically poke his nose and drop in the business basically of cable, of TV and radio TV service providers and broadcasters and digital media providers and things of that sort. He has no right to poke his nose in their business and to disrupt their programming. That's what a dictator does. That's what a king does. Like Kim Jong-il. That's what he would do. This is utter insanity, and the American people need to rise up against this tyranny in this country and get rid of it once and for all. And that's what our founding fathers wrote in their own letters, in their own writings. They said, when the government becomes corrupt, get rid of it. Because we did not create this country to be controlled by tyrants, as they were in England. End of story. So, we need to be bold, we need to get informed, we need to get organized, we need to be united, we need to inform people about what's going on, and most of all, we need to resist. Now, it's not basically a coincidence that as these U.S. presidential elections are rolling along, and as we approach Election Day, where everyone thinks that, I'm going to cast my vote either for Hillary or for Trump, not knowing that their vote really does not count at all. It's the Electoral College that has the final say. When you go and vote, you're voting for the electors, and then the Electoral College then in your state takes over. End of story. We don't have direct elections in this country. We have indirect elections. There's other people that vote in the president. And, I hope that people out there really realize what's going on. And the fact that there's a lot of untransparent stuff that goes on during the Electoral College and all that they do. And that's another topic too. But during this whole time, actually the past week and a half or so, almost 2 weeks, what's been going on? Why we've been seeing terrorist attacks like in New York with this other utterly ridiculous fake bombing. And we've been seeing shootings going on in various parts of the country, like Oklahoma and North Carolina. Gee, isn't that interesting? That's very, very interesting. We just had a news flash here from the conservativetribune.com. Breaking news, Muslim beheads woman in Oklahoma. Wow. What? Yeah, you just heard that. You just heard that correctly. An Oklahoma woman, Colleen Hufford, was beheaded at Vaughn Foods, her place of employment, by a Muslim man who had repeatedly been attempting to convert co-workers to Islam, once again proving this is no religion of peace. Alton Alexander Nolan, the Islamist who killed Hufford. Now listen to this guy's name. Alton Alexander Nolan, the Islamist who killed Hufford, was recently fired from the business. He was shot by an off-duty police officer during the attack on Hufford and another co-worker. But he is now in the hospital and expected to survive. Now, if you're one of those people that drinks Kool-Aid and believes all this garbage, dive right into this. Now, if you're a person who's awake and knows what's going on and understands that all these supposed terrorist attacks are all fake, like this one in the case of Mr. Alton Alexander Nolan, a white man, they're saying a white man went crazy, basically accepted Islam, and went and beheaded a fellow white woman. If you believe that, boy, I don't know what to say. Go back to sleep. Now, according to The Blaze, isn't that, what's his name's, utterly ridiculous little press service, I don't know if it still belongs to him, I'm talking about Glenn Beck. According to The Blaze, the discovery of Nolan's religious beliefs, his attempts at converting others to Islam, and the manner in which he killed Hufford have led authorities probing more deeply into the man's background to investigate whether or not he has any ties to any radical groups that could be in the area. Oh my God! Wow, this just sounds really stupid, really retarded, and really made up. What say you guys? I don't buy any of it because this goes along with the government's line of propaganda. This sounds like, to me, white Al-Qaeda, and it was none other than the previous loving lesbian leader, what was her name, Janet Napolitano, who made up that term white Al-Qaeda and said basically that, Americans that cling to their guns and their Bibles are terrorists. They're white Al-Qaeda. Continuing, quote, after conducting interviews with co-workers of Nolan, information was obtained that he recently started trying to convert some of his co-workers to the Muslim religion. Jeremy Lewis of the Moore Police Department said. To me, that just sounds so ludicrous, so dumb, so just utterly insane. Insanely unbelievable, because a white man starts converting people. Gee, what was he before? An evangelical Christian? Who was one of those evangelicals that has a knack for converting other people to Jesus? And now he decides to be a Muslim, so he goes around converting other people to Islam. Let me tell you something, people. Muslims don't go around trying to convert other people to their faith. That is retarded. That is dumb. That is utterly ridiculous. Now, this is all, of course, made for TV propaganda. But let's listen to a quick clip from a Moore Police press conference on this issue and see what the police over there have to say.
Both the second victim and the suspect were transported to the hospital and are now in stable condition. After conducting interviews with co-workers of Nolan, information was obtained that he recently started trying to convert some of his co-workers to the Muslim religion. Due to the manner of death and initial statements of co-workers and other initial information that our investigators have gathered, we requested the assistance of the FBI in conducting a background investigation into Nolan. And that is about where we are at this point. There still is an investigation going on. It's two separate incidents that we're looking at. We do have a homicide that our investigators are looking at, and we have requested the assistance of the FBI in looking into the background of the suspect. If you have any questions, I can try to take some of those over.
So basically what you have here is we have another incident in Oklahoma. Now, why these nut jobs in Washington are picking Oklahoma, that's another issue. That's another issue in itself. We just had the other week the shooting of some black man in some freeway in Oklahoma, right? And they basically shot the guy in cold blood and whatever. So, now we have another incident, and this time it's with a Muslim guy who's white. Who's white. Oh my God. This is just too funny. Too funny. Now, all this is just started taking place during the most critical part of the presidential campaign. That's very, very interesting. In other words, Obama, his New World Order handlers have decided to create all these false flag incidents during the most critical part, during the peak of the presidential campaign, where Trump and Hillary are now starting to debate each other. Gee, I wonder why. Could this perhaps be going along with this supposed plan of Obama to bring in martial law in this country, which requires a major event? And once this major event takes place, Obama, and this is according to, by the way, to top Washington insiders, like the Washington insider Larry Nichols, who's been exposing the Clintons for decades. So these aren't my words. So, could this be a situation where they're leading up to the big event, quote unquote, during the elections? And once this big event takes place, Obama is then forced to invoke the FEMA provisional government, and then it will bring in martial law. And then basically all hell is going to break loose, and Obama's going to say, I'm going to have to take over this whole election process, and I'm going to have to take over the whole country, by the way, for that matter, to save you all from terrorists or whatever. So that's why, of course, there's been all these rumors that he is planning to stay in after the elections, after January, basically, of 2017. Now, there's a lot of rumors going on about basically either Hillary dying or pulling out of the race. Yes, we've been hearing all about that. Hillary may die or pull out of the race. Now, the Democratic National Committee has already admitted they are discussing replacing Hillary due to her health problems and due to basically the fact that she's a complete bubbling idiot in general. Of course, there's rumors, too, oddly enough, about Trump. Isn't that something? There's rumors, too, about Trump that he may get assassinated. And, of course, the press bureau, the mainstream news, the press bureau, Infowars.com, which basically operates now as the mainstream news for alternative news, has been touting this nonstop. Alex Jones has been touting this nonstop. And so have the Russians, too. The Russians have been saying the same exact thing, which is really weird and strange. I mean, they are like so religiously convinced now that there's this plan to assassinate Trump. Now, this isn't without merit. And you're like, what? You are going along with this utter nonsense? No, I'm not, but I've been studying up basically a lot about basically all these rumors. And I will tell you this. Donald Trump's presidency has been predicted in the media and in Hollywood for about 3 full decades, at least. 3 full decades. Number one, what I want to make clear is that both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are shills of the Jew world order to destroy America. End of story. When Donald Trump goes around saying he wants to make America great again, guess what, folks? That's a phrase he took from the Clintons. Bill Clinton created that phrase in the 1990s, and then he began to use it again in 2008 during Hillary's presidential run back then. Why? Well, that's because Donald Trump is best friends with the Clinton. That's why. That's an indisputable fact. And according to a request of the Freedom of Information Act, the William Jefferson Clinton Library is being forced to hand over tons of archives of photos, tons, they're saying, that show Donald Trump and Bill Clinton over the years together as best friends, that show Donald Trump with both Hillary and Bill for years in parties and get-togethers, etc., etc. Now, remember, it was May of last year, whereupon Donald Trump had a phone call with Bill Clinton, and this is admitted by both of them, where they had a nice little chat. Now, why they released this to the press is interesting. Why would they even release this phone call? Gee, I thought Donald Trump hated the Clintons, says the Trump supporters. Au contraire. To the contrary. In May of last year, they had a phone call, and of course they admitted it to the press. They released this to the press, and they said, well, we just talked about as friends and a little bit about politics, nothing serious. Well, guess what? A few weeks after that, what does Donald Trump do? he runs for president. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. That's because Bill Clinton told him to run for president with Hillary, his best friend, who he acts like he's against. Now, he's not against her. Why do you think he purposely dropped the ball in the debate the other night? Because he's not going to attack the Clintons. They're his friends. Hello. Donald Trump is friends with the Clinton for many years. Chelsea Clinton and Ivanka Trump are best girlfriends. Yes, you heard that correctly. Now, before this broadcast closes, I'd like to play you a clip from the movie Back to the Future, Part 2, because there's something very interesting there that I'd like to point out with regards to Donald Trump.
I'm sure you've seen the comparisons with Biff and Trump from Back to the Future floating around on social media. I want to take it a little further than just the physical comparisons and the synchronicity of the year 2015. Those of you lurking this part of the internet, I'm sure have seen the 9/11 Back to the Future videos out on YouTube. If you haven't, go check them out and gain some context. But here's a string of either intentional patterns or synchromistic connections. Either way, I think it's significant to put out there. We all know Trump's famous one-liner from his reality television show, The Apprentice, "You're fired." So I personally find it odd that "you're fired" is used by Marty's boss preceding the alternative Biff Tower timeline from 1985. Coincidence or not, the parallel is there with Biff. As well as the wordplay Biff Tower as in I'm biffing it or eating shit, you biff the tower. Maybe that's a stretch, but it doesn't take away from this next piece I'm about to show. Take a real close look at this Trump Serta mattress commercial containing quote-unquote sheep.
So what do you think of my Trump Home mattress collection by Serta? Finally, the same luxury and comfort I demand in my hotels.
Oh, they'll never count sheep again.
Listen, why don't you come work for me?
What do you have in mind?
Something you were born to do.
And what do we have here? We have two sheep, labeled 9 and 11, standing upon two pillars.
Welcome to room 9.
Looking good, number 9, looking good.
Where's your dignity?
Save now on this Trump Home Luxury Suites mattress during the Serta Luxury Suite Savings Event, now through Labor Day.
Okay, that video was by the channel What Is Real from YouTube, What Is Real. Now, basically that just said a lot about Trump. I mean, he did an ad predicting 9/11. Hello, a mattress ad. Let's go to another video now.
Marty McFly, husband, father, famous rock musician, wakes up and turns on the television. That's odd, he thinks, but he doesn't think what the odd thing is, so I'll just tell you. On the news, he sees his old nemesis, Biff Tannen, running for President of the United States. Successfully.
God bless America.
Terrifyingly successfully. This is not the world Marty thought he knew. If any of this sounds familiar,
Something very familiar about all this.
that's because it's the plot of the new Back to the Future sequel, in which we are all currently living. Biff Tannen was, after all, based on Donald Trump, aside from it being just so very obvious. The writer Bob Gale has confirmed this on the internet. And here we are. Biff is running for president. We have hoverboards that have wheels that touch the ground. This is very different from the world Marty had seen when he originally traveled to the future on October 21st, 2015, Back to the Future Day. Speaking of that day,
I believe we're out of time. The time necessary to mount a winning campaign.
that's right. October 21st, 2015, a back to the futuristically significant day, is when Joe Biden announced that he would not be running for president. And now here we are. Biff's winning.
68% would not leave under any circumstances.
Encouraging violence.
I would bomb the shit out of him.
Knock the crap out of him, would you?
Generally being the big bully that Biff is.
Throw him out into the cold. Let's go. Come on.
Go ahead, kid.
Jump. You weren't called. Sit down.
Where'd I go? Lead poisoning.
No coach.
And Doc and Marty are blowing it. Come on, guys. What's it going to take? Are you making a whole new trilogy? Get it together. I mean, at least Doc's holding down the fort in the present.
Our kids and our grandchildren, they're going to be asking us, what were you guys thinking about? What were you doing?
So, that was a pretty good video by the channel Cracked on YouTube, Cracked, with the title, Why Donald Trump is the New Bad Guy from Back to the Future. But what he doesn't mention is that the character of Biff Tannen is killed off in the end of the movie. Yes, you heard that correctly, and of course you all remember the movie, because there's a lot of us that are fans of this whole Back to the Future series. Could this perhaps be a prediction that took place about 27 years ago, because I believe that's when Back to the Future came out. Could this fact be a prediction of Donald Trump's future assassination attempt, which is what everyone's talking about right now? I'm just saying. This is John Kountouris for Greek News on Demand, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Thank you very much.
My name is S.M. Gibson, and I am the host of Anti-Media Radio.